everybody. I am Victoria Palacin from Vincit, and today I will be walking you through the BeComE Entrepreneurship Self-Assessment Tool. Today we will be talking with the developers behind the tool. We will be hearing what they thought when they were creating this tool, how they have used it, how they have tested, and what do they think about it. Also, today we will have someone from Indie Campers, Carolina, joining us to tell us about how Indie Campers has used this tool. We had a team of 7 people from Indie Campers assessing themselves and assessing their entrepreneurship skills using this tool. And we have had a very wonderful conversation and reflection about it. Cool. Okay, so let's start. Let's start by hearing from Simo and Joni about how this tool was built.
Sure. My name is Simo Savonen in Turku, Vincit. I live in Kaarina and started last February as a rising star. And this project was, I think, a second joint project we did with Joni and spent maybe 2 months on it, I think.
About.
Yeah. And at the moment, I'm just a normal developer, but not working anymore with JavaScript. I'm doing WordPress at the moment.
Yeah, so I'm Joni Vainio-Kaila from Turku also, and I had same story as Simo, rising star developer at February, and this was our second project. We did this for Tallinn University, and now I'm working in a solo project myself for Turku University.
Nice. The collaboration with academia continues. That
Yeah.
is always good to hear. So we hear that you were the people behind the tool, this tool created for the BeComE project to assess entrepreneurship skills. Could you tell us a little bit more about what was the situation when you started this project? How were entrepreneurship skills being assessed before this tool was created?
So the researchers in Tallinn University, they had paper forms that the students had to fill or some companies. And the paper were delivered to the researchers and they had to manually calculate all the competence values. And then the results were delivered by email or some other form for the people who answered the assessment.
Then they also had the Lime survey in Finnish language, but there were some issues in getting the data out of it. It took a lot of effort to make it work with their statistics program.
Yeah, the data they got from another tool was in the wrong form, so they couldn't use it, and there was no automatic what is the word? Conversion to the results.
Yeah, and then you created this tool, which I am going to be showing right now on the screen. So this is how the tool looks like, right? And this tool helps solve that problem in many ways. It helps, from what I hear, improve the maintainability. It helps to reduce some dependencies in terms of how the data is being shared, how the data or when the data is available for certain individuals and groups. Would you like to walk me a little bit through the tool and to see how it works? So we see that here it has 3 languages. I'm going to choose English for now. And,
so when you come to the site as an individual, there is 2 options for you. So you can either, with the green box, you can go straight and assess yourself. If you are just an individual, you don't need to insert a group code. You can just click to assess yourself and you will be taken to the questionnaire. Another option is that if you are part of some group, if you are part of some group, you can insert the group code that the group manager would give you.
Yeah, in here I happen to have a group code of a company that filled the survey, or some of their employees filled the survey, so they are a group. So I will insert this group code to see how the results look like. So I could go here in review group results and click here, and I can see that there has been like 6 people and that they have answered this survey. Let's try to dive a little bit more into the results. What are we seeing here?
So in the background, there is average values from the Tallinn University for each competence factor. So this diagram shows, in which group are you? Are you the low group, average group, or high group? There is not now an average high group because all the answers are below or under the highest possible group. So this shows for this whole group how they vertautuu, Simo, auta.
Yeah, how they performed.
Yeah.
And
the color is determined by comparing to the average results of some data that they have collected from university students.
Yeah.
Okay.
That determines are you below or average, above average.
So the red means that it's a low level, and yellow means that it's an average or like a higher level of like
maybe you could say that
and
you should improve that part of your thinking or something like that.
Okay, like the red ones.
Yeah.
Yes. And if there would be a green one, then it would be really high. So you would be really good in that competence.
But maybe these results are not good or bad. They are just what was your opinion, and overall people think this way, and your opinion is below theirs. Yeah.
Yeah, and the questionnaire on its own it's a self-assessment, right? So I'm going to share here, like as a self-assessment, there is like there are questions that you can agree and disagree with. So in a way, it's a self-driven assessment. So it's always like marked by like personal perceptions and subjectivity, which is somewhat normal. So indeed, what we're observing in the results is pretty much that. And it's interesting to hear that this is like the results are dynamic in the sense that like you can see here how the radar diagram is adapting to the survey that you have just filled, but at the same time it's also taking data from prior research, data from studies that have been done at Tallinn University with students. So that is really good to hear. And after we observe this radar diagram and we see like how overall the group is performing, something that I think is really nice in this tool is that you see the results as a group, but you cannot see individual results, right? You cannot pinpoint individuals here.
Yeah, the researchers, of course, get their raw data, but the group manager doesn't know which employee or group member answered what was their answers. Yeah.
Okay, that is really good. I think that this is particularly interesting because as a manager or as a group leader, you don't want to have biases against certain people or pro certain people depending on what they have answered. So the inbuilt anonymity is something that like I think is good for this type of tool. It's appropriate. And so after seeing the radar diagram, what do we have in here?
So then there is more detailed explanations, feedback on your competence values, in which group did you get, and how then it explains how this group usually thinks about these things.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting.
So if you want to some competence is low, you can check out what would be good things to think about why it is low.
Yeah, and you also have here some recommendations. So for instance, here communication skills seem to be low. You first explain what does this competence mean, and afterwards you explain that like how to support students or people that has this type of issue with the skills, and you assign them these types of tasks. And I think that is particularly useful. When you were building this tool, who did you have in mind as like the main users?
So this text comes straight from the Tallinn University, so we haven't written this. So I think they mainly talked about students, but also companies could use this.
Yeah, and I think this is interesting because we are seeing here an example where we have had a company fill in the survey, and I believe that like entrepreneurship skills are also useful within a company, and particularly companies, for instance, like Vincit, where we have a lot of consultants that work in different projects that in a way or another they have to have like their own entrepreneur skills to be able to direct their interests and direct their work. So do you consider that a tool like this could be, or do you see potential in a tool like this to be used in a company like ours?
Yeah, we could, for example, in Turku, inspect how competent we are in becoming entrepreneurs. And then we could maybe, from the results, think that we could sano Simo sä nyt, voitaisiinko järjestää jotain?
How to improve the mindset of the employees, but maybe this could be used to evaluate, do the employees see themselves just as employees, or are they actually, do their actions have some effect on the company? So
I think this is a very interesting tool. Cool. And like, are there any other thoughts that you have regarding, for instance, the results? What I really like about the results is that you have a code, you go in there, you search for your group, you have the results. Are these results always available over the web? Could anyone go and check them using any device?
Yeah, if you have the code that was given after you answer the questionnaire or you create a group, you can always come back with the group code or questionnaire code, get back to the page.
Cool. That is really good to know. All right, let's now, I'm gonna go back to the main page and to see like what other features we have in here. And as I can see, basically like this is a very, very simple tool. It has simplified like a process of assessing yourself and seeing the results. And as such, I like the use of colors. I like the simplicity that it brings to the process. And I like the anonymity in it. Are there any other features that you would like to highlight from the website here?
So there is also for the Tallinn University researchers a place that they can, there is a sign in as admin. They can, from that page, they can export the data as CSV, so they can use these assessment answers in their research as their research data.
And then there is a whole other content management system for the text and the questions. So in the future, they can add more questions, maybe add more languages, fix any typos, change the number values, which determine is it a green or yellow or red answer. Everything is editable.
And you built this over 2 months, right?
Maybe a little bit more, 2.5 months, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is really impressive. I think this is a really nice tool. Thank you, Joni and Simo. So for building this tool, I think many people appreciate it. So in summary, we have been talking a little bit about the principles that have built this tool, right? We have said that the results are dynamic, that the results of the assessment are available over the web. You have also told us that the tool provides high availability of the results. The results are available there permanently. And with the address and the code, you can go and access your results. But also the tool is quite easy to maintain, it seems, for Tallinn University. So it has attached an admin content management system that will allow them to maintain the system in the future. They can change the questions, they can add languages, they can change the way that the results are presented. And the tool seems to respect quite strongly anonymity. So the focus is being put on the results known who created or who answered what, which is a strong, I believe, support of like team-based thinking. So would you like to tell us a little bit more about like what went into building this tool?
We chose a new framework called Next.js. We hadn't used it before. And then the results are stored in a Mongo database. And the content management system was also new. We haven't touched this thing called Strapi before. So it was a real nice learning experience to practice all these new technologies. And Joni, tell us how you managed to deploy it. That was interesting too.
Deploy it? I don't remember anymore. What do you refer to?
I think you built the Docker system for us, and
yeah,
it's Docker. Complicated. So many containers.
Yeah, and CI/CD pipeline that automatically deploys the application.
Okay, and well, now this application is deployed. It's hosted on the Tallinn University, a Tallinn University server, from what I can see from the address, and I guess that it's probably going to be available for quite a while, for a long while. As long as the university maintains it, this service is going to be up, and I think it's kind of self-maintained in the way that it gets administrated by people, researchers who lead this type of projects, and our intervention is probably only minimal from now on. The system is like built to last in a way.
Yeah, we hope it will be maintained a long time and will be available for many years.
Hi again, it's me. After hearing what Joni and Simo have reflected about the construction of this entrepreneurship self-assessment tool, we'll be now trying to move towards the use of this tool. This tool has been used in many contexts. We have used it at Vincit, in individuals, not in teams, but we have used it as individuals. And we have had also partner company, indie campers, using the tool. And before we go into the interview that I had with Carolina, where she told me about how they use it and what they think about it and what are the potential uses that we can have, I would like to briefly show you the tool. No, yes. So once again, this is everything. We have a one-pager tool that is very simple. That is very simple for individuals. They can just assess themselves without a code. It's also thought for group managers or team leaders who can review group results. The tool can allow you to assess yourself individually, but it can also allow to assess groups and in an anonymous way. It also allows you to complete like half-done surveys. It allows you to produce different assessments at different points of time. So you could assess yourself and your team in January and then again in June, etc. And you can create groups just by clicking on create group, adding a name and creating a group. So you don't need to log in, you don't need an account. It's really simple. And so this is just a small reminder on like how simple it is to really assess our competences. And now to talk more about the practical applications of assessing our competences, we have indie campers.
Hi, Victoria, thank you.
It's great to have you here. Carolina, could you tell us a little bit more about you and about indie campers and your role in this project?
Yeah, sure. So about indie campers, it is a Portuguese company and is the biggest marketplace for road trips at the moment. Anything that is related with road trips, from renting a camper, buying a camper, renting our own camper, we have it on our platform, and we are present already in Europe and in the US, and about to go to Australia. And so it's been an exciting growth since 2013, and I've been in the company since 2016, and it's been really interesting. And for sure, we need a lot of entrepreneurial competences. So it's been a pleasure to be part of this project that I joined almost 3 years ago. And to use this tool that was really useful for us, but we're going to talk about it after.
Yeah. Yeah, that is super good to hear, Carolina. And I'm also glad to hear that like Indie Campers sees entrepreneurship skills as an important competence among their employees. So we had a team of people from human resources at Indie Campers. We had them fill in the competence assessment tool, and we're going to start going through the results that we obtained, and yeah, we're going to hear what Carolina thinks about it. What did I learn from these results? So these are the results that we have, and these are, like, we can see here the radar diagram and all the competences that this tool assesses, and we can see the different levels in the team. So what were your thoughts when you saw these results at first, Carolina?
So I think first of all, I think people were super sincere, so that's good. It's a simple tool to use, and that's why they are all there are a lot of yellows and reds, so there are a lot of room to improve. So that's interesting. I can understand, according to the department, which areas are more developed than other. But for instance, financial literacy and it's lower, cooperation skills are higher. And yeah, it was interesting to see this result, the fixed mindset. And I talked with the team, and they also said it was really interesting for them to have their individual results and be able to see the suggestions that you do on the bottom of the results, so they can understand better which dimension, which what do they mean, and what they can do to improve.
That is great. Yes, indeed. The tool is quite simple to use, and it provides those sorts of like suggestions. And as you can see, like, you can assess a team quite quickly, and you can keep the results online. We were also earlier talking with Carolina about the potential of reuse that this tool has if one wants to compare, for instance, like how their team has evolved in the last 6 months. They can easily create different snapshots using the tool. So that has been like quite interesting, and I am glad that you guys liked it. So based on this experience, Caroline and I got together and we started discussing about how can we use this tool at companies. At Vincit, we did not have a full team filling it. We had a lot of different individuals fill in the survey, and we have some reflections to share with you today about about basically what we think that matters in terms of using this type of tools at company. Yeah. So yeah, let's maybe reflect on that. So one of the first things we talked about was that this tool could really help us to guide competence development, because it gives us like concrete knowledge, right, of like where we are at right now, and that can help us. Like,
yeah, I think it gives you a concrete metric, and as a company, that's super important. It gives you concrete metric of what there's room to improve and what it's good at the moment. And you can see each individual and the team. So that's really important. So you can assess in a concrete way what areas you need to develop, and you can train within your team, for instance.
Yeah. You can also drive hiring activities, for instance. That's something that we thought that could be good to do, because then if you realize while doing this assessment that there are certain skills that you miss, then that's something that you will for sure pay more attention next time you're trying to recruit someone for your team.
Yeah, exactly. You have a map of profiles of the people you work with or the people you are surrounded by, and which skills are lacking. And so it's important because it drives the hiring dynamics and activities, the job specs and all that.
Yeah, the job specs, that's true.
Yeah, the way you create teams, the way you join forces, and even especially, and this is super important for the companies, the way you can improve performance from each individual if you develop these specific competencies, and it allows you to understand if you're doing it correctly by using the assessment 6 months later, 1 year later, and understand if there was evolution both from the team and from the individual.
And yeah, going a little bit more into the topic of like motivating like teams and individuals, as we were talking earlier, as companies grow bigger and bigger, this is a challenge, like really being able to show individuals to that you know that you care, that you want them to grow and provide that sort of support. So in that sense, this tool seems to be really useful because it can really support an organization in developing their resources and their people. So that's something super important. And we were also talking about like how this could even like sync the internal communications by creating a basic language. So like if everyone were to be like talking about these competences, then it would be a lot easier to communicate from one team to another, or like, you know, between different people in one team, because then everyone would be trying to have those competences or to develop them. So discuss their challenges and how they feel about them.
Yes, and you can use the same vocabulary, and this is especially important when you have an international company, which sometimes matters of language, of linguistics, of it can makes it harder even for the person to explain, for instance, to their team leader what are the areas they want to develop. They sometimes don't know how to name it, so this gives it a name, and it's important because of that. And that's why it boosts internal communication. I think it's super useful in that sense. And then something super easy to see, you can develop a training plan specific addressing those areas. You can understand what are the areas that need to be developed, and you develop a training plan together with the person. And it is important to not lose track of the individual, even though you have a team and your team is growing, as you said. So it's important, and this gives you that type of lens.
Yeah. At Vincit, we have the issues that like we have so many different trainings, and sometimes we are not very efficient at the way that the trainings are handled, because let's say that like the different people may take different trainings and they don't know about each other's trainings. So that is something that's kind of interesting, because I think we don't have a plan yet of trainings, and that would be really good for us. And I think a tool like this would definitely help us, because then we would know like which way we are going. And we have, for instance, now discussed whether we should have a person who is guiding the development of certain competence internally, and that person is creating these sorts of plans and all. And I think a tool like this could be really useful, because then you know specifically what competences you should be developing, and then the plans that you create are aligned with those competences, and that's something that you can measure. So I see that this tool as principle is something very useful.
Right. We at Indie Campers, we have been working on developing our OKRs and metrics for each department, and combining that with this type of information, so like personal individual information, can make the feedback sessions and the performance and the training plan and the performance development much more efficient. It is not only a technical point of view, it's also an individual point of view, individual skills, social skills, soft skills that you can develop in other way, and maybe it could end up being forgotten if you didn't have this type of information with you.
And we are also working on our OKRs at the moment, so that's a really happy coincidence. And one of the things that we have noticed is what you're saying, right? That individuals and teams, they want to grow, they want to be better, but they need these reviews, and they need to have goals, and they need to see their progress, because otherwise the progress becomes so unclear that it doesn't really motivate people. So being able to see your progress actually motivates you in the long run. It makes you feel like, you know, you're achieving things, you are moving towards your goals. So I think that this tool actually provides a really good support for that. And then I think we also thought that this tool could be really useful to, for instance, start recognizing leaders, like people with potential, which anyway probably you already know them, but in your own teams, but through the tool you could also like try to see, for instance, where are certain individuals lacking. Of course, if you choose to use the tool in that sense, because the tool is normally anonymized, but I think you could still discuss with individuals. So for instance, like where do they feel, or like they can do these individual assessments and they can discuss those. And you could try to like nurture your leaders. So if you know that there is people that is in a mid-level position, that they probably their path is going to become a manager or something, or a team lead of some sort, then you know that like this person needs to strengthen certain skills thanks to this type of tool.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it also it can make you see which persons internally can maybe help others developing skills.
Yeah,
because they have that, they are high on some dimensions, so maybe they can easily be recognized as experts and help to teach those skills to, or even by shadowing programs or by coaching, teach those competencies to a colleague.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we are now entering also a territory of like the cross team and cross individual cooperation, right? Like talking about like knowing what competences and weaknesses you have enables cooperation, enables harnessing your resources more efficiently. So in this sense, for instance, sometimes you have to have joint sales or projects, and you are trying to find the right teams and the right people for those projects. And I think this tool could really help, because you could see like if there are teams that are like somehow a match in a way, that they have some competencies that like seem to like support one another. I think that could be like a really good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like at least in our reality at Indie Campers, we are constantly cooperating. The projects most of them are with different teams. So it is important to understand how they can cooperate in a more efficient way, and it can be used for that, for sure.
Yeah, and even like now that you mentioned that, it made me think about like silos. Some companies have really big silos, and a tool like this actually help reduce the silos. If you have like the teams assessing themselves, and then you have another view of like the skills at your teams, I think this could be really helpful. You could start, nowadays that it's becoming more and more popular to have cross-disciplinary and multidisciplinary teams, you could start mixing and matching things. You could be that you have teams that are very similar in different fields, but they just happen to have very similar skills in terms of like competences, for instance, and how their entrepreneurial abilities are. And of course, this could help you ultimately to reorganize your company, right? Like you could find more efficient ways to like handle your operations, probably even more creative ways that are more centered on the individual and
new workflows, new ways of working.
Yeah, center around the individual and their individuality, like their expertise and their needs and their interests, which right now I think is a core factor in keeping people at companies. Talent is moving a lot.
Yeah, definitely. So the team satisfaction and the individual satisfaction, that's what is motivating.
Yeah, that is important. That is important. But hey, Carolina, thank you so much for reflecting here with me about like the potential uses of this tool in a company. Do you have any other thoughts in there that you would like to share with us today?
Just thank you for creating the tool, and for us to have the pleasure to test it. And I'm sure we're going to be able to use it more often. And that's it. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Carolina, for testing the tool, for trying it out with your teams, and for your reflections. That was really, really insightful. I hope that you have enjoyed today's episode of the BeComE podcast series, where we have talked about the Entrepreneurship self-assessment tool. I hope that you can find some uses for it. And if you have some questions or doubts or comments, please do not hesitate in emailing us.